Hi, I'm Kathy, and I wanted to explain to you how I was able to quilt this quilt behind me. This is a quilt that I used some really fast techniques to make it. It might look complicated, but really it's not. But when I did that, I just wanted to note a couple of things, is that the rows, they may look very straight, but they're not. And you'll be able to see that the rows are not very straight because of the methods that I used in further down into the videos. But the other thing that I did not video is that I did put it onto the frame just like this first, and I basted along the sides and across the belly bar twice. And I did that so that it would be very stable and it wouldn't have any wrinkles. I wouldn't have to worry about the underside, the backing, before I actually turned it so that it was at a point and putting it on the diagonal. So I hope that these will make sense when you go through the video, and you are free to contact me if you need any help in figuring out what I did. Thanks so much. I have now completed my flower blocks and a few end blocks, the green blocks, where I put in some triangles. This is a pattern, I think by Sweet Dreams, called Cone Flowers, and I like it. So I'm going to be taking this off the frame and trying to load it on diagonally. My quilt happens to be a square, so this may be easier for me than for someone who has a rectangular shaped quilt. But the first step for me, so that I can try and get this straight on my frame, is I will line it up on the belly bar here from corner to corner, so that I can see that my seams are straight and the corners are at the top right here on both sides. And that's how I want to start the quilt and try and get it to roll up straight on the frame. The next thing I have done is, particularly because I have an idler rail, which means the fabric can't go over the top, it needs to go under the idle bar. I have put that corner through so that I can work from the back of the rail, from the back of the machine. So I will next be attaching it to the leader. So now I'm standing behind the quilt, and this is the corner. Here's the corner that I'm trying to attach. And as you see, I left myself a lot of backing fabric extra, but I don't really want just a little tiny corner to start the quilt on the leader. So I left a lot so that I could do this. I want to be able to fold this over and then be able to attach at least this amount from edge to edge here, the triangle that it makes, onto the leader, so that I'm not just hanging literally by like the corner of the quilt, but I've got a little bit more fabric on there to get it going onto the rail. So now I have attached from behind, I have attached it to the leader cloth like this. And now I'm just going to give it a good old college try to roll it onto this one and do the same to the other end. So one thing to note is that because I have so much excess fabric, as I am rolling it onto the top rail here, there is a lot of loose fabric right here. And I'm not very concerned about this. I can straighten it, and I don't care what the fabric that has no batting, which is not attached to the actual quilt, looks like. There's going to be a lot of excess fabric right here. But as you can see, so long as you keep straightening it as you go and making sure that you don't have any wrinkles in the area where your quilt is actually at, I think that it turns out pretty good, because when I look on the other side, I can see that it is rolling very straight, and I see straight rows. I mean, I really can't really complain about how straight it's looking right here. So I'm just going to now try and attach this end, doing the same thing. So I have attached the other end of my quilt, and now I'm just going to try and back roll it onto where it's supposed to be, so that it's not all on the front rail. As you can see, right now it's on the top rail right there, and now I'm going to go backwards. As I am rolling this, maybe this will demonstrate a little bit better. All I really care about when I'm doing this is making sure that the area that is quilted, that I'm going to be quilting, is getting onto the rail straight. And then all this loose fabric that doesn't have batting, it's going to be loose, and I don't really care too much about it so long as it's not like balled up. And I will probably have to move the slack around quite a bit. But because I had basted the quilt, I know that the backing is already going to be straight, so I don't have to worry so much about the excess. This might have worked better. I was a little bit nervous to cut it. If I did this again, I think after I basted the quilt, I might cut it down some so I didn't have so much on the sides. But you would need to leave enough to, obviously, to get onto your leaders. But I'm going to continue rolling this, and I thought this might explain more of what I'm doing. I have finished rolling it onto the belly bar, and I'm actually quite okay with how straight everything is. And I will be using fabric comp for this. This looks a little tight. I may loosen it up a little bit, but that's how I've done it. I will probably next time really not have so much on the outsides here. But other than that, I think that this method will probably work again in the future. So in conclusion, I want to say that I would do this again, but I would do a little bit different in that when I quilted this quilt out, when this was actually quilted, so it was like this way across my belly bar, I used borders and corners to do a border over and over and over again. And what I didn't realize is that there were like a secondary pattern from that border, in which I didn't know because I had never had the border stacked like that twice in a row. And just because it's a force of habit, I had put a 1/16 inch margin around everything. And I don't know that I would do that again in this case. So I ended up with these gaps along the seam line. And I'm just sharing with you in case you're looking at doing something like this. I would not put that margin in there again. I did use fabric compensation, and it really does look straight as a result. But I would definitely not put a margin in next time. Thank you for watching.